Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Daily Crypto Byte. Today is Tuesday, May 3rd, and we've got plenty to talk about today. It's been a wild week like we are seeing here in the comments. It has been quite the week here, so we'll talk about some price action, but also some headlines I want to hit today because the 2022 FIFA World Cup has just partnered with Algorand. So I want to talk about that, what that could mean going forward. We're already seeing a nice spike in price. Algo is up 15% today, but still want to break down that news for you guys. But before we get started, CJ, how are you doing today, my friend?
Doing well, Monty. Thanks. Just want to start off with an article here from PTJ. So, Paul Tudor Jones went on CNBC this morning, and previous two times he had been on, he had made some good calls. You know, last time he was really bullish on Bitcoin coming out. One of the first institutional investors to really embrace it around 13K. Obviously that worked out very well. And then near the top of the S&P, I think it was just when we were starting to come down, he warned that, a macro tightening could be a very difficult environment for stocks, and that he was very worried about, decreasing prices. So virtually 2 for 2 in the last few CNBC visits. And now we see this one where he states he cannot think of a worse financial environment for stocks or bonds right now. So very interesting and a pretty good track record coming from PTJ. But just to summarize a couple of the points here, clearly you don't want to own bonds and stocks. And yeah, investors are in uncharted territory, as central banks had only eased monetary policy during past economic slowdowns. He said investors should prioritize capital preservation in such challenging environment for virtually anything. So pretty profound claims there, but have to definitely take it with a word of caution. I think there's also some interesting stuff we can get into today versus a potential rally following the FOMC meetings. But I think Tudor and what he's talking about there is more of a broader trend now going into 3 to 6 months. We'll see then. He did say he's bullish on a more longer time frame of about 3 to 5 years, but obviously that's a little bit more difficult to foresee.
Well, thank you for that, CJ. But I mean, just looking at the charts, in themselves, I think speaks to this point. We are in uncharted territory with lots of these major indices. Looking at the Qs here today, it looked like they wanted to open up, but since then have kind of pulled back a little bit. And we're down below this critical level. This really is uncharted territory, and not just from a technical analysis perspective, CJ, but also from a sentiment analysis perspective. I mean, you've been talking a lot about that over the last couple of weeks, but we are at historic levels for bearish sentiment. We are at levels that we haven't seen in decades. And I think that, Paul Tudor Jones sums that up nicely. And when he, speaks, we like to listen because, he tends to be pretty accurate on these things. So, that doesn't necessarily mean the market has to continue to go down, but I think he, is speaking the truth when he says, protect your capital. Right now, people need to be kind of playing defensive in preservation of capital mode because there are a lot of macro conditions working against you. But thank you for breaking that down, CJ. Let's quickly dive into this Algorand news here because this is probably my favorite headline of the week so far. And yeah, I mentioned it briefly at the start of the show, but Algorand scores FIFA partnership, and since Algo's price has surged, let's just quickly pull up the Algo chart here, which I have somewhere on my watch list. I'll just type it in because it is up 15% today. It was up, even more than that at one point. It was up pretty significantly. Since has pulled back a bit, but still, some pretty significant price action, nice uptick in volume. But essentially, this partnership, the 2022 World Cup will be taking place in the winter. That's a first for the World Cup, but that's because it's taking place in Qatar, where it will be very hot in the summer months. And this is not just a historic deal because for crypto, this is also a historic deal for a US-based company partnering with the World Cup for advertising purposes. The US has been absent. Major US companies like McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Budweiser, all have not been participating in World Cup advertising during the last couple World Cups, and that has to do with U.S. federal investigators looking into FIFA for corruption, and that have really came to a head with the firing of Sepp Blatter, the head of FIFA, since a new head has been hired, and this is the first U.S. partnership made with the new FIFA president, Gianni Infantino. So essentially, this partnership will involve the making of a wallet infrastructure for the 2022 World Cup, and also Algo will assist FIFA in creating more infrastructure around payment rails and also NFTs for the upcoming World Cup. So, the World Cup's about 6 months out. That gives them a decent amount of time to prep for this, but it'll be interesting to see what sort of applications they put forward with this recent partnership. You can definitely expect to see NFTs of various World Cup teams, that sort of thing. But this is a major milestone for crypto in the sense that it's partnering with a massive event with millions of eyes on it internationally. So congratulations to Algo, any Algo holders there. Got a nice pump today. It'll be interesting to see how that relationship with FIFA and Algo continues to develop here over the next couple weeks to months. So just wanted to quickly break that down. CJ, any thoughts on that piece or anything else you want to hit here?
Test, test. You hear me?
That's
Nothing?
that's a lot better. Yeah.
You can hear me now? Okay, sorry. That last mic was really, really bad. It was the computer mic. You could actually hear the computer fan while I was speaking. Very annoying. But yeah, I want to take a look at some stuff that's going on in the equity market that could be quite interesting because we are seeing a lot of bullish calls getting bought this morning, specifically in stocks like ARK, or ETFs, I should say, like ARK. And another bearish put spread in consumer staples. So, you may see the market shift a little bit more risk on here towards the end of the week, specifically in things like ARK, as well as potentially crypto. We saw a lot of Mara calls get bought going into earnings tomorrow, so that should be very interesting. We had so much fear and anticipation for the FOMC meeting earlier in the week that just had a lot of drastic sell pressure. And although we do have to respect the trend, I think it's very interesting that those calls are getting bought in advance of the FOMC meeting. I think some traders are betting on kind of a buy or sell the rumor, buy the news type of event. Not saying we couldn't go lower from a macro perspective. I'm just saying that seems like a decent place in which we could bounce. Why don't we take a look at Mara though? It's interesting because when I pull up these charts, you'll see that a lot of these are stretched to their extremes in terms of downward pressure. So, Mara going into earnings tomorrow, starting to see some bullish candles after a prolonged downtrend, starting to rebound, have a bullish divergence on the RSI as well as the MACD, really turning up and creating a crossover here nicely. But obviously earnings tomorrow will be very important as well. But I do hold some calls going into that one, just a little spread between 18 and 16. I also do want to check out the DXY though, because it is starting to show a little bit of weakness here and potentially stall out. This has been really the best, one of the best long trades, if you were long the dollar versus a variety of other currencies like yen and euro. But we are starting to see a little bit of on there, as well as when you look at things, for instance, like US versus Swiss franc. Still bullish, but a little bit of a hanging man candle there at the top, starting to see a little bit of turn down. These are assets that are stretched to their extremes in terms of the dollar strength versus a lot of these other currencies. And so it's interesting that you're seeing those, you're seeing ARK at an extremely oversold level. You're seeing DXY and the dollar at extremely overbought levels. So going into the end of the week, you may see a little bit of shift there, just a little bit of like mean reversion. Not saying that the trend has to reverse or anything. One of the things that Paul Tudor Jones also said that I forgot to mention was that he thinks that trend following strategies are most likely to do quite well over the next few months. So you got to respect the trend, but those extremes definitely think we might get a little snapback here.
Yeah, that DXY definitely looks like it's, showing signs of a topping pattern, and not just the DXY. Another thing that we're constantly referencing, right, is the TNX, the 10-year Treasury note, and that is also looking like, it could start to pull back here today with a very strong divergence from the moving average. The likes of which we haven't really seen since the end of March here, and we did get a slight pullback before continuing to climb higher, but some strong resistance here at 3. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the 10-year, but obviously a lot of that is contingent on what we do see from the Fed. So lots of uncertainty in this market, CJ, and I think that that goes to PTJ's point about right now it's hard to identify which way we're headed in this trend. So play defensively until we have some more clear-cut signs of a trending market. Right now it is very uncertain. It is looking like we could see a potential reversal later in this week, but as of right now, lots of indecision in this market and still lots of fear. So plenty to keep watching. Anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up today's episode?
No, just want to say that we're going to be checking out some trade insights and trade setups and looking at them after today's video in the members only Doge of the day. So if you'd like to get access and see not only our education curriculum, but also our community and trading platform, check out marketrebellion.com/try crypto. And please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content that you saw today. But regardless, appreciate it. Hope you guys have a great day and great